of the most amazing places in all of Zilker Park is right here at Barton Springs Pool. And what's wild to think about is every year, hundreds of thousands of people come to this very location and swim in these waters. And these waters are 68 degrees, and I don't know about you, but for me, that is absolutely freezing. And something you may not know about Barton Springs Pool is that 76 years ago, a famous Hollywood actor by the name of Robert Redford, he learned to swim in these very waters as a 5-year-old. And as I think about that personally, it just reminds me of my sons and before they learned to swim. I remember a long time ago, I would get into the water with one of my little boys, and as I'd wade into the pool, they would just wrap their arms around me and they would dig their little fingernails into my skin. And the reason why is because they were so fearful. They were afraid of what could happen. And so the more fear that gripped them, the more they gripped me. But eventually, they learned to swim. Eventually, they began to trust. And when they learned to swim, they enjoyed the happiness and the goodness of pools. They enjoyed the pleasure of swimming. And guys, I think that same dynamic happens with us when it comes to generosity. I think a lot of times when it comes to our finances, we do the very same thing. We just hold on to our money. We just grip our finances. And I think we do that not because of greed, but I think we do that because we're afraid. I mean, what's going to happen tomorrow? What about the economy? What if something unknown comes up? And the more we think about that, the more fear we have, the tighter we grip. But you see, God has invited us to a different story. God's invited us to something even greater. And when we begin to trust God and we begin to let go, do you know what we discover? We discover what He has for us. That there is happiness in generosity, that there's actual joy in generosity. And that's what He actually has for you. And I think that's an interesting thing for us to think about. And in your group, I'd love you to talk about those very things. You know, what fears do you have when it comes to generosity? And what do you think God actually has for you? Because I believe that God has something for every single one of us. And He wants us to experience something greater. He wants us to experience the joy and generosity. So I hope you have a great time talking about that. And I'll see you next week for part 5.